Hello, family members. I hope you're having a nice day today. I want to tell you all a story. When I was a little kid, like fourth grade, I was such a social outcast and I was bullied so badly that I completely just blocked that year of my life out of my mind. Like, I remember thinking the last day of school, I just didn't remember anything from then till the first day of school. Like immediately. I was just repressed and gone. And even now, my memories from that time are really vague. Fifth grade was rough, but a little bit better. By sixth grade, I just, went to middle school and I didn't know how to handle my peers. I just don't know how to act in a way that people don't find strange. And when you're in sixth grade, that's kind of a problem. And I remember like hiding in the bathrooms during lunch, and I didn't have any friends. And I'm just saying this to underline the point that, kind of needed therapy most of my life. And the first time that I ever had therapy, I was in high school, and it was a disaster. I started seeing someone, it was going really well, and then they moved. And, I can't blame a person for moving, but, it was really hard for me to open up. It took a long time to start opening up. And then, I start getting comfortable, and then they're just gone, and I got to start over again. So then I start over again with this honestly very nice lady. And I think that, things might have gone well. But then I'd few sessions in, they realized she wasn't covered by my insurance. And so I had to start all over again. And then the next therapist insisted on doing family therapy, which just did not help or work or do any benefit at all. And that was sort of the end of that. And I tried again at college, but the therapist refused to see me if I, a 19-year-old college student, wouldn't promise her that I wouldn't drink at all. Like, I'm in college. I wasn't much of a drinker, but I wasn't going to promise that I was never going to have fun with my friends in college, you know? Like, I understand to a certain extent her point of view on that, but it seems so arbitrary, especially since I didn't have an issue with drinking. So that was the last time that I was in therapy for a very long time. And once I started having these health issues, it really aggravated my depression. Now, I'd always dealt with depression on and off for years, and I just kind of learned to deal with it on my own. When I had my chronic depression would aggravate, and I'd have these like depressive episodes, and I'd lose massive amounts of weight, and I'd shut down and stop having any sort of like contact with the world that I didn't have to kind of hide what was going on with me. I was always really intent on hiding it. And when I got cancer, I kind of learned a lesson about why you don't ignore health issues and why it's better to kind of be a little proactive about it. And so, well, once I realized that this was real, that I was going to be like permanently disabled and not able to work and everything, I was proactive. I got a therapist. And she was pretty nice. It worked out pretty well. But then I lost my insurance. And then when I got new insurance, I had to get a different therapist. And I really liked her. She was so good. She didn't really have much in common with me, but she was just open-minded and ready to listen, and it was really nice to have someone that I could like touch base with every week, talk about what was going on, you know, complain about anybody that I wanted to and not have to worry that it was going to get back to them or that, it was going to taint somebody else's relationship with that person or, I needed it. It was nice to have an outlet and an ally. And then I get a letter in the mail. They're not going to be covering them that service anymore, my insurance. And I have to switch therapists again. And I was like so upset about it. I was just like, well, maybe I should change insurances. And I honestly thought maybe that's what I'd do. But then it got to the point where it's like almost time where I'd have to make that decision. And switching insurances is not an easy prospect. The one that I have now covers the doctors that I have, and that's kind of important. And so, like the week before Christmas, I told my therapist that I was going to have to leave the service and find a different therapist. It was really hard. And, my intention was to get a new therapist like right after the new year, when my coverage changed or whatever, just to make sure I had that person again. And it's now the end of February, and that hasn't happened yet. Today, I finally did it. I finally found a different service that takes my insurance, that'll do the telehealth insurance or therapy that I need. And I looked through like dozens of providers and finally found someone that hopefully, will vibe. But it's daunting to be starting all over again. When part of your problem is trust issues, constantly being made to change your therapist because of like arbitrary reasons unrelated to the care is not helpful. Like, it's really frustrating because when you finally break down and express that you have mental health issues and that you need help, it's not like, you can go to the doctor and get cured up and that's that, I mean, like, it's a process and not one that our mental health care system exists very well to handle, I'll say. One thing I've noticed is a lot of the problems that we have right now in the United States go back to insecurity. Like deep down, I think a lot of the like oligarchs and politicians and business owners, celebrities, whatever, that sort of influence our culture have a deep-seated insecurity that they're always trying to fight. That's why people like, say, Elon hoards wealth and power, because it'll never be enough for him because he's so insecure and he won't actually deal with his insecurities. Now, I heard something, my ex-girlfriend played a TikTok for me, and I wish I remembered what the creator's name was. If I can get her to tell me, I'll try to link it in the description. But this lady, she said that, there's this narrative that men can't talk about their feelings. And that's not true. That, women have to deal with men's feelings like all the time. It's their feelings of insecurity. We have to be careful to manage. When you've got an insecure man around, you can't be too dominant or he's going to feel offended. And I'm not good at that. I can't really tell when people are like that. And so what that means for me is that a lot of times I just offend people without meaning to. Sorry. But, I don't read those things and I don't change my behavior to tiptoe around other people's insecurities. Whether or not that's a good thing, I'm not saying. I just don't. Well, anyway. So, men's feelings, we do talk about them a lot. Their anger, their frustration, their loneliness. Those are really big, present, constantly had discussions. They really are. Like, honestly, I want you to think about it. How often we talk about men's anger, or, how often do we talk about, men being mad about being called out for doing something, or, you know, how like lonely and isolated the poor incels are. And it's like, maybe we need to address that. And yet, I don't know how we could. I don't think our current system is really set up to help men confront those feelings that they allow themselves to acknowledge, let alone the feelings that they don't allow themselves to acknowledge. You know, I wonder a lot about the sort of disconnect between, generally women are likely to be hit on by people they don't know. You're going to have unsolicited compliments on their appearance. It's just people asking them out, people doing this, people pursuing them. And you'll hear men say that they've never felt that. They've never felt that desirable. But I think what those men don't realize is it doesn't feel good to all of us, and maybe most of us, to be treated like that. It doesn't make you feel desired, because they'll do it to any woman who will give them attention. You don't feel like they want you specifically. You feel like they want a woman and they're trying to convince you that you might want them too. And I mean, I know I'm a romantic and romance repulsed, and so that kind of stuff gives me an anxiety it wouldn't give like every woman. But, it feels like men don't understand how interchangeably they treat us. And so they don't understand that the way that they act doesn't make us feel good. I don't think they care necessarily. How do you get this whole population, this whole subculture of aggrieved men to care? They are struggling. They're uncomfortable. They're unhappy. They're insecure in their lives. And they are so uncomfortable, they can't imagine spending time on thinking about other people's issues. But I want to tell you something. When I was depressed in high school and middle school, what really brought me out of it, not therapy, was a puppy. My dad raised bird dogs growing up, and his dad had raised beagles, hunting dogs, when he was growing up, and was very old school about it. And so until I was a teenager, we never had dogs in the house. We always had dogs, sometimes as many as like a dozen dogs, and I loved them. I'd go pet them, play with them, do stuff with them, and Daddy worked them and trained them and everything, but we didn't have them in the house. We had occasionally cats in the house, but not dogs. Well, it's like Thanksgiving break. Daddy comes back from a hunting trip he went on with one of his friends, and the guy gave him a puppy, a little English pointer puppy. And he was so little, and he was so like naked. He didn't have like any fur. Yes, Kimmy says hi. You say hi, Kim? Pull my dress down a little. Yes, she does. Anyway, so this puppy gave me something outside of myself to focus on. Because he was so little and we were going on vacation to Florida in a few weeks, we had to take him with us. And he was too little to be put outside. It was too cold, He didn't have very much fur because he was just a little pointer pup. And having that dog, having something outside myself to focus my energies on, that's what saved me. That's what pulled me out of that depression. That's what helped me start being able to like reach out and make friends. Was having somebody or something to care about other than myself. Being depressed, and I don't know if this is true for other types of mental illness, but I can tell you it's true for depression at the very least. Being depressed is a very selfish state. When you have extreme depression, you can't do anything other than focus on surviving 1 minute to the next, 1 day to the next. And that means you don't have any space in your head for anything other than what you have to do to get through the day. Now, that might mean, taking care of some people as part of like your daily routine, but it's not the same thing as like really investing in something or someone else. And when you can do that, when you can start looking outside of yourself, that's when you start healing. And so that's what I think, we need to teach our young men a little better, is that caring about us, minorities, marginalized people, disabled people, women, queer people, people of color, everybody, poor people, whatever, everybody, when you take the time to care about them, when you take the time to learn about the subcultures all around you, it makes you a better, happier person. Like, even if you don't want to do it for, benefiting other people, you are benefiting yourself when you reach out and you learn about other people and other cultures. It makes life less frustrating. You're able to understand things better. You don't feel so lonely. You don't feel so angry and frustrated and isolated because you learn how to do something with that frustration and anger. One of the best things that a person can do to deal with their frustration and anger is start advocating for people who are marginalized, because that gives you a lot to work with. That gives you a lot of place to funnel that frustration and anger, and it helps you feel like you're part of a community. Now, one thing I'm not advocating is for young white guys to like try to go into minority groups and tell them how to live their lives. I'm telling you, go into minority groups, listen to them, and then offer them support. And believe you me, it's extremely gratifying. Now, when I was a kid, I worked at a summer day camp called Camp Tommy. It was something that my dad and some other, mostly young people in education, had done, created for mentally and physically impaired children in the area. And from the time I was a kid, I was there every summer. And when I was old enough to start helping and being a counselor, I was. And I had the most wonderful time at Camp Tommy. Even when I was working at Camp Tommy and I was mainly just looking after this one adorable little girl who was wheelchair bound and a little bit spicy sometimes, but I knew how to handle her. She adored me and I adored her for years and years. I was her counselor every summer. And I still occasionally check in on her, and it was so delightful. I mean, you can see me smiling thinking about those memories. What a wonderful blessing for me. You know, that's, I think, where our mental health system partially goes awry. Is therapy is good for mental health. Don't get me wrong. You should seek therapy if you believe you need it, but it's not just about you and processing yourself. It's learning about being part of the community and serving the community, because we call it serving, but it's not like a job. You know, it's not like you're giving value and you're getting nothing back. You get so much more than you put into it. You really do. Anytime that you join any sort of group that's advocating for marginalized peoples, whether it's the unhoused, working at a food bank or a homeless shelter, working at picking up litter, um, I mean, even things like, advocating for people who are poor or have substandard housing or need on-the-job protections. Just basic stuff, being there for the people in your community who need you. I think part of the problem our healthcare system is so out of whack is one thing that was very present in American life that did contribute to helping people be mentally healthy was church. And it's kind of a complicated topic because church can be both a extremely positive thing and an extremely negative thing. And it really varies from church to church and individual to individual. But if a person was part of a church that was, relatively socially positive and was helping the community, they had that outlet. And they also had a place where they could congregate and get support. At its best, a church family can really do a lot to support a person and to support a community. Once they decided that they needed to make church be all about abortion and bigotry and the silly stuff that has nothing to do with like Jesus, and people started floating away from the church, people lost that connection. They lost a resource they could have used to find community, to be of service, and to improve their own lives and their mental health. Yes, thank you, Casey. This is a perfect time for you to scratch. Don't do that. Yes, he's just behind the camera. Kimmy's that way. Casey's that way. I really am very frustrated with our mental health system. I don't feel like they care. I feel like mental health is kind of like dental and optical. It's like this like luxury optional thing. That's how we view those things, which is really hilarious because dental health can kill you. Like if you get bad infections in your teeth, they can spread to your bones and that can literally kill you. And not being able to eat appropriately is really going to make it hard to be healthy, physically healthy. But for some reason, dental is its own thing. And, insurance never should cover it, right? And you have to have separate insurance for that, which is weird. And the same thing for vision. Like, there are a lot of health problems that can be caught early with eye screenings. But that shouldn't be part of your regular insurance. What the heck? You know? And I think that's how we kind of treat mental health care too, Casey, is we kind of, okay, don't sit on my tripod, dog, jeez. Anyway, so we just kind of expect mental health to be something you ignore. And if you get a chance to deal with it, then it's kind of like a luxury thing. And yet, like, young men in this country are committing suicide an awful lot. I'm just saying. It's kind of terrible. I don't think that we focus on making sure that people deal with their insecurities and their anxieties and all of the things that cause them to act out in unkind ways. And that is a problem. That's a huge problem. We need to address these concerns instead of ignoring them. We need to know that mental health is just as important as every other kind of health, although every other kind of health is also ignored in this country. It's not just that. Yes, this is Todito Bandito. My dad gave him to me for Valentine's Day. I can't stop playing with him because he's amazing. Anyway, I just wish that we took mental health more seriously, that there was more awareness that finding the right fit of patient to therapist is like paramount, and that continuity of care is far more important than they seem to think. All therapists are not interchangeable for me. I know that. I've tried lots of them. And so I really hope this person that I've signed up for this Thursday, wish me luck, will be somebody that I can vibe with, My last therapist was an older black lady from Texas. And I don't think she'd ever heard of aromanticism before me and a lot of things before me. But she was willing to roll with it. And we really connected. It was like having an aunt or something. And, I can't expect that connection again with this new therapist. But I won't deny that when I was going through and looking through my options, I did put special consideration in people that reminded me of her. So we'll see. But my thing is, I think we have to figure out how to deal with insecurity in more than just therapy. I think we need to learn how to deal with mental health issues of like anxiety, depression, anger issues, all of that holistically. That's something that your primary care physician should be aware of. And it should be something that we'd handle in community groups and outreach. We need to teach our young people that taking care of other people enriches their lives. Like, it's not just for the people that they're doing it for. It has to be for them too. Because if you're doing it just for the people who you're doing it for, it's going to be hard for you not to expect something from them in return. And you may or may not get that. But that's not the point of service. The point of service is that it makes you a better person. After you have truly humbled yourself and served others, you will like who you are more. I remember dealing with a lot of loneliness when I was in college, and I didn't really know how to make friends. I didn't really understand why I could never seem to figure out the whole dating thing. At that time, I think I might have been letho-romantic, which means that I wanted to feel romantic feelings, but then if I did, they just disappeared. And so I would like be obsessed with people who I subconsciously knew were not gonna, reciprocate. And I wonder how much of the modern insecurity man culture we see, like, with these rich, famous people who can never be satisfied, who always need more because they never feel secure inside. I wonder if we realize how much we're failing ourselves and our children and our community members. It makes me sad to think about people who spend their entire lives searching for something they can never find. But it doesn't excuse the awful things they do to marginalized people to try to make themselves feel better either. So, it would be good for them if they could get a little more healthy in their minds. And it certainly would be better for us and everyone else too. All right, family members, I think I should probably wrap it up there. You've already seen the dogs. You've already met Todito Bandito. I guess the only thing left is I can show you my tardigrade. His name is Hank. I don't know why I felt like I had to show you something. I have created a Patreon. I feel like really weird about it, but I did. I'll have a link in the description, and it's not going to be anything fancy. You just get more pictures of my animals mostly. I know some people like that. I'll also have some other behind the scenes kind of stuff. I don't imagine I'll be mentioning it like every video, but since I did just create it after the last video, I felt like that might be timely. So if you can and choose to offer me a little bit of support, it would mean the world to me. I'm not doing